All right, welcome back. And look, I know that was a very rushed morning tea, but hopefully you got a little bit of sustenance, cup of tea, coffee, and welcome back. So just before the break, we heard from Nathan and David and Parris, and I asked you to hold your questions. And our next speaker will then, after you've heard from him, form a youth engagement panel with Nathan and David and Parris. So you'll be able to ask any questions, and I'm sure you have them, to any of the panelists at that point. If you're watching online, you can pop those questions in the Slido Q&A section. Or if you're here and you're a little bit shy, you can also do that. You can pop the questions in the Slido Q&A rather than asking the question face to face. So that panel is coming up shortly, but first, a presentation on how organisations can build a compelling value proposition for volunteers. And it's my pleasure to introduce the CEO and founder of Red Frogs Australia, Andy Gourley. Andy recognised that the culture of young people was dominated by alcohol, and that excessive consumption of alcohol and other substances can lead to dangerous and life-altering behaviours. Red Frog's mission is to provide a positive peer presence in alcohol-fuelled environments where young people gather, to educate young people about safe partying behaviours, and to promote and provide non-alcoholic and/or diversionary activities that engage young people in their environments. The pancakes are probably as well known as the Red Frogs these days. Red Frogs is now the largest support network in Australia for schoolies, festivals and university students, whilst also supporting sports and skateboarding events. Please welcome Andy Gourley.
Fantastic. Well, you'll be happy to know I did bring Red Frogs today, so they will be available to keep you going. Thank you, sir. As mentioned, who's heard of Red Frogs before? Who went to schoolies back in the day? Okay, who got Red Frogs at schoolies? Who got pancakes cooked for them? Who got a walk home from the frog team? Yeah, up the back, I see that hand there. Yeah, rock and roll. Well, just to give you a bit of background, I guess, on Red Frogs, and also a bit of background on myself, I'm actually an accountant. I did a Bachelor of Business. Any other accountants in the room? Hey? Oi, no, how good, mate. See, there is hope for accountants, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I did a Bachelor of Business Accountancy at QUT just across the river here. Also, I'm a pastor at a local church on the south side of Brisbane doing community outreach work. Also the chaplain for the mighty Queensland Reds. That had a good win over New South Wales on the weekend. How good is it smashing New South Wales? So I agree with that. Queensland is the best state. Before that was a great comment. And also a skater. Been downhill skateboarding 39 years. Haven't really figured out how to stop yet. Just love going fast downhill. So skateboarding is not a crime. So I'm a bit of a pastoral skateboarding accountant. A little bit multi-personality. But back in my uni days of 12 contact hours a week, and don't uni students do it tough, eh? 12 hours a week. We need to put more effort into it. I had a bit of time up my sleeve, and I actually got involved with the local church down the road doing a bit of community outreach work. Because I really got challenged. I come from a pretty good background. Didn't lack for too much, but I got challenged as an 18-year-old that, hey, life's a bit bigger than my accounting career, my Reds membership, just my little castle I'm building. But it's actually about others as well. And being a skater, I thought, well, how do I give back into my community? I thought, well, I'll do that through skateboarding. So I remember driving down Logan Road, or we call it Bogan Road on the south side, and past 7-Eleven, or 7 as they call it. And anyway, there's all these little punk skaters setting fire to these boxes down this side alley that's 7-Eleven as I was driving past it. So as all good citizens do, I kept driving straight past. But I had my skatey in the back of the car, and I thought, I better not let these little punks burn down the 7-Eleven at 11 at night. So I ripped my little Mazda 323 power around and legged it into this little 7, stuck my head out the window. I said, boys, what are you doing? They said, oh, nothing. I said, want to go for a skate? They went, oh, that'd be awesome, man. So I piled about 17 in my car back in the day when you could do that. How good was that? And we went to Paddo Skate Park, the big skate park next to the Suncorp Stadium there. And we just sort of started skating. Every Friday night I'd rock up to my local park in Mount Gravatt, and there'd be some kids, 3 kids would rock up, and then other nights 30 would rock up and ring my mates with their vans to pick them up. And we started these skateboarding clubs. And these kids that were roaming around our streets, 11 at night on a midweek night, and normally around that year 8, year 9 sort of age group. And parents just really didn't care where they were. And we started this skateboarding club for these kids. A lot of drug and alcohol sort of backgrounds with these kids as well. And for the first 15 months, we didn't see too many changes in them. You got to earn your right in. You got to earn your right in those communities and earn trust as well through consistency. But then we saw some of the kids join some local youth programs, start coming out of the drugs, out of the alcohol. And the next 3 years, we started 5 more of these youth clubs all around Brizzy. But then they got to year 12 and went to that lovely, wholesome youth festival on the Any Gold Coasters here? Oh, how'd you so proud? What a great legacy to the rest of Australia. Schoolies Week, well done, well done. I actually did 2 Schoolies Weeks myself. I repeated year 12, so I could do 2. But back in my day, Schoolies was pretty hectic. It was pretty violent, actually. There was a lot of one-punch incidents, and all these toolies would come down and beat up on schoolies, and schoolies being dragged into cars and assaulted in stairwells. And I was worried about my skaters. They would get head into that. I spent 5 years seeing these kids come out of the drugs, out of the alcohol. I just knew getting in the wrong environment, they could get caught up in that again. So as a youth worker, I went, I need to go down and look after them. They actually rang me and said, Ghouls, come visit us at Schoolies. Now, I got a bit of footage on my first visit to Schoolies Week. So this is a young mini-me with my mullet back in the day. And this will explain why we give red frogs out to students. Let's have a look at a true story. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Andy Gourley, aka Boss Frog. I'm here to give you the inside story on how Red Frog started. See, it all started because looking after a bunch of sketchy punk skaters up in Vegas, they were getting up to no good, but when they got to year 12, they all went to schoolies, and I went down to look after them. When I got down to the Gold Coast, I just couldn't believe how big it had gotten. Schoolies everywhere. Had a tin of VB come off a building, like smashed just a metre from me. Saw a chair come off a building into a pool. Guys doing nudie runs past you as thousands of schoolies were going past them chanting, "Let's go down the road, let's go down the road." So I went to visit my boys in the hotel room, and I went to get in, but there was a massive security guard who wouldn't let me in. I was ticked, I was spewing at him. But I sort of went down the road and I thought, no, I'm not letting this fella tell me I can't look after my skaters. So the next day, I went into the hotel manager and said, look, do you want a hand at Schoolies Week? And she goes, oh, that sounds fantastic. Takes me in her office and starts making me like cups of tea and scones. And then she goes like, how many friends can you bring down to Schoolies? Just to give you an idea, like her building was 400 17-year-olds. In every room, there's more alcohol and grog stacked up than you can chuck your nana at. And then there's more other substance floating around that you care to mention. And like 2 security guards and 1 hotel manager trying to keep a lid on 400. So we just started crashing parties just when it started going like floor to floor, finding kids passed down stairwells, and found this one kid passed down the lift with a bucket on his head, so we took him out of the lift, dragging him back to the units. And so there's music belting through this door, and we knocked on this door. A little schoolie peers out and goes, who are you? I said, oh, Hotel Chaplaincy. He goes, hotel what? I said, yeah, Hotel Chaplaincy. He goes, hotel security? It was a real hassle getting into the rooms, like really difficult getting in. And so we legged it down to the local convenience store, found this massive big box of Allen's Red Frogs. And we just grabbed this big box of frogs, went straight back up to this unit, knocked on this door, little schoolie peers out. He goes, who are you? I said, oh, Hotel Chaplaincy. He goes, hotel what? I said, no, mate, no, do you want a red frog? He goes, oh, red frogs, yeah, come on in, man. And he was yelling, we got frogs. And all his mates start coming off the veranda, grabbing handfuls of these red frogs. And I'm standing here with this box of lollies going, these things are amazing. Then went to the next room, knocked on the room, it was like the naked room. All they were wearing were pots and pans and stuff. And some big unit had a saucepan full of alcohol. And he points it out, he goes, oh, drop a frog in the pond, mate, drop a frog in the pond. He had said, righto, mate, there you go. So I got on the phone to our workers and said, buy the Gold Coast out of red frogs right now. Went to every convenience store, every cash and carry Woolies, and we got 80 kilos of red frogs. And they just got us into every party, just straight away. Even past the big security guards that weren't letting us in. We'd rock up, they go, where you going? Can't come in here. Mate, want a red frog? Oh yeah bro, coming in bro. And then the next year the council rang me again and said, Andy, can you bring your teams back? And we brought back 45 workers the next year and went through 220 kilos of frogs. But then next year it was 90 workers and 440 kilos of frogs. Then 130 workers the next year with 880 kilos of frogs. Then the next year 1.2 tonne of Allen's red frogs. And then now we've gone to 24 tonne a year through all our programs, reaching 70,000 schoolies in over 17 locations. We talked to 52,000 Year 12s in our high school education program. We're now one of the largest support networks for schoolies in Australia. It's also one of the largest support networks in universities in Australia, as well as now music festivals, sporting events, and overall our programs, it's around 1.2 million Aussies we deal with a year. Why? Because I ride a skateboard, and took some kids skateboarding 3 hours a week. And it's amazing, like, the power of little things, Little things over a long period of time become big things if you're consistent. People think that they can't make a difference, that the issues are too big, and they don't realise that if everyone does just something, that all adds up to some big impact in life. And so it's just an amazing honour to now champion this amazing movement called Red Frog, with thousands of volunteers that are involved every year. And it's just one of my greatest honours and greatest privilege to still be involved with all these young champions coming through, doing far bigger stuff than what I ever did at their age. And mate, it is an absolute privilege.
Oh, there you go. Amazing. We could have been the strawberries and cream crew. You never know. So I'm just so thankful it was red frogs right there. But it's amazing to see how it's grown. Like as mentioned, 70,000 schoolies, about 17 locations, including our 5 islands in Fiji. About 7,000 Aussies head to Fiji now, and they're schoolies-only islands. What could go wrong there? So we have teams that live on those islands looking after, and also Bali. We have a great team that go to Bali and looking after 2 locations over there. But a big thing for culture shift, and where we've seen a lot of culture shift at the activities of schoolies, is actually the education program. And it's actually grown to about 80,000 around Australia now. We look after Year 12s. We go into the high schools teaching them how not to get evicted from their hotel rooms and how not to turn your parents into grandparents over Schoolies Week, and but also how to avoid those tricky situations. But we have a thing called the Red Frog Hotline, which I'll show you and get the stats up on screen. And this is a national hotline that any schoolie can ring anywhere in Australia, get red frogs delivered to their schoolies party. So last year we had 8,429 call-outs on the Red Frog Hotline. You do get some pretty classic call-outs on that hotline. It's actually not a bad place to volunteer. Now, this one unit ring up, he goes, "Oh, is this the Red Frog Hotline?" I said, "Yeah, mate." He goes, "I've got an emergency." I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "I'm sitting on the toilet, run out of toilet paper." I said, "Mate, froggies are pretty generous people, but they don't go that far, buddy." He goes, "Oh, no, it's okay. Found a loaf of bread," then hangs up. Just hey, it was a multigrain, We had this another guy ring up and he goes, "Oh, is this the Red Frog Hotline?" I said, "Yeah, mate." He goes, "Oh, do you do walk homes? Do you walk people home?" I said, "Yeah, mate, we can walk you home. Where are you?" He goes, "Oh, mate, I don't know. I'll ask my mate." He goes, "Mate, where am I?" He goes, "Mate, you're already home." "Oh, it's okay. I'm already home." Quickest walk home we ever did. But as you can see, we do about 3,000 walk homes and transports over that time. And that's actually dropped sexual assaults by about 75% over the last 10 years. We're in the early 2000s, it was 80 to 90 a year. And now in the 20s, which is still too many. But the walk home teams do an amazing job. In fact, they broke a record last year. One team did 25.4 Ks in walk homes last by themselves in one night. That should be called Red Frog Biggest Loser, I reckon, over that time. But the teams do a great job there. As you can see, we get hammered for random acts of pancakes. 2,464 call-outs. And that's getting into the preloading, because preloading is where they do the most damage. In those rooms, pre-drinking before they come out, we get in there putting food in them, seeing who's passed out in a bathtub and getting the paramedics to them. And also on those verandas, making sure they're not hanging off those verandas, but pulling furniture away from the railings and things like that. So the teams do an amazing job in getting into those parties, and all by invitation from the schoolies too, which is amazing. But as you can see, the team's got to 628 alcohol intoxes last year. And I just want to also congratulate Nathan, mate, on a great job you do on your education space. Let's give it up for Nathan, mate. Great job, incredible. And I'd really concur on some of your findings in youth culture too, that even though that 628 alcohol intoxes was high figure. A lot of them are minor. In fact, probably half of schoolies aren't big drinkers now. It was amazing. And you notice at the cafes, they used to be empty back in the day, the tumbleweeds going through them. Now come 9, 10 in the morning, they're full of schoolies doing their smashed Avo and lattes. So it's almost like they're swapping beers for boost juices these days. It's incredible. And so about 50% are big drinkers. They're up doing their morning yoga and runs. It's quite amazing. But the ones that are drinking, unfortunately, doing drugs as well. And what's increasing for us is drug use and also the mental health issues, and that lack of resilience isn't quite there these days. So the teams do a great job getting into those places. But again, just the volunteers are amazing. And we had about 1,450 volunteers just for the schoolies program last year, and it's just amazing the stories sometimes that they get to some of those mental health related issues. We had 108 call outs, so just schoolies ring and say, hey, my mate's struggling a bit, what can we do? And I also want to really compliment Queensland Health and their mental health triage that they set up down at the Gold Coast, and that's been a game changer for us to be able to offload and find those young people and their mates finding their mates and bring them down to that mental health triage has been a game changer. But the guys get to about 19 suicide ideations last year, and it just blows me away that the teams are literally in the right floor, the right room at the right time, where a girl's half climbing out a window and they grab her. It's just incredible every year. The stories are just amazing. But overall, I've got to give them an A+. The culture has shifted a lot. In fact, alcohol shifted in this culture. It's gone from primary to secondary, where the primary goal back in my day was wake up under a wheelie bin with peas and carrots on your shirt. Now the primary thing is the dance party, the mates and the community, and then alcohol second. And so there's been a real shift in culture. The other thing we've noticed about youth culture is this, and as mentioned by Nathan too, they're very social justice inclined, very social justice aware, and they're looking after their mates so much better. Back in the day, they just leave Jono sleep it off on the beach, cover him with sand and watch the seagulls peck at him. Now they're picking Jono up, walking him to the first aid tent, sitting with him for 3 hours and walking him home. And so this incredible social justice passion in this generation that is brilliant for volunteering. And as you allow room for that and get them on a process of a journey into that, there's a real appetite for volunteering if there's purpose in it, and it lines up with their passions as well. But schoolies, again, is our little project actually compared to university. Schoolies to us is just pre-O week. And we just finished looking after about 400,000 uni students and over 2,000 uni events and about 150 residential colleges and uni parties all around Australia and New Zealand. And our actual uni programs have gone overseas now to New Zealand, into South Africa, into Wales, Scotland, England. In fact, we also started in France 2 years ago with our French froggies in Montpellier. They love it. And then we're 21 cities in Canada, and also started in the USA, in Nashville. We're doing the big country music festivals in downtown as well. But another big area for us is also festivals with our Festy Frog Cruise. We did 110 music festivals last year. Did all the Taylor Swift tours and Billie Eilish and Pink and Luke Combs. And then we also do all the festivals like Laneway and Wildlands and all the EDMs as well. Our teams are in those mosh pits, rehydrating people, roving teams, finding people that are in bad ways, getting rid of the paramedics as well. And then we also do sports. We're actually contracted by Cricket Australia doing all the test matches and one days. So how that works, we're in the MCG, SCG, we're on comms with security. They see Bay 13 start firing up and they go, I'll send in the froggies. And we go down with the water backpacks in with water sprays, putting sunscreen on them, playing sculling games with water. And it's actually dropped evictions in grounds up to 40% around Australia just through that early intervention program. But another big area for us is skate parks. That's where we started in skateboarding. There's 1,764 skate parks in Australia. Our goal is to get a team in each one. And what that looks like, our Skate Park Shepherd program, is just a crew rocks up once a week with marquee, donuts, water, a bit of music, and just creates a safe place for young people to skate in. Because I believe skate parks should be a safe place for young people, not how to get into drugs, into crime, into those areas. And so our teams are doing an amazing job with the Skate Park Shepherd program as well. And then also through that, we're now doing high school after parties and after formal parties on big properties. And the teams are doing an amazing job in setting up midnight pancake stations and hydration stations and walk home teams getting people home safely. So through our programs last year, it's about 2.5 million Aussies we looked after with about 4,500 volunteers. And I guess it's been an amazing journey and such an accidental journey. I never planned to give lollies to children for a living, okay? That's how I thought people like that got arrested, you know? That was never my goal, you know? I was happy doing account, you know, I was happy working that. But this journey's been amazing, I guess, to see the evolution of the frog. But in that, I've learned a few things. I've learned a few things along that way. And I see some of my key findings and key principles that I have learned is this too. And I've really found this too, is I've really found that the power of little is great. The power of little is great. You can't do everything, but you can do something. And if everyone just does one thing, everyone just does something, and that comes together, it creates a huge impact in our community. And I think we get overwhelmed sometimes. We look at all the issues and media blows it up, and, you know, no expense there, except for ABC, of course. They're very level in this playing. But we get overwhelmed sometimes. But you've got to realise that your part matters. Your piece matters. What you do matters. And it's the power of little is great. And I look back at my journey and I'm so thankful that I just took those skaters skating 3 hours a week every Friday night, week after week, month after month, year after year. And if I'm really honest, the rest of the week was all about me, my accounting career, my mates, what I wanted to do. But just that 3 hours a week ended up in this thing called Red Frogs. Never negate the power of little things. The little things you're doing are powerful. Power of little is great, and little consistent becomes big over time. The other key thing I've found is this, is that you can achieve anything you want in life if you include others. You can achieve anything you want in life if you include others. It's like schoolies. We can't do schoolies by ourselves as red frogs. We would get absolutely owned if we tried that. We need Queensland Police to get rid of all those bikies and weapons and clean out the place in their patrols. We need Queensland Ambulance with their hurt teams, their hotel emergency response teams and their triage. We need Department of Communities and the infrastructure with the fencing and staging and everything. We need Beyond Blue and their mental health training. We need Gold Coast Volunteering, Drug Arm, Rosies. And together, we can have a red hot crack. By ourselves, we will get owned. And I think one of the most powerful places you can get in life is this, is I can't do it by myself. As soon as you get to that stage, is I can't do it by myself, you then need others, but then you value others. We value our stakeholders on the Gold Coast. We couldn't do it with that. You can achieve much more as a team than you can do as an individual. Don't get isolated in what you do. Don't think it's all up to you to save the world and make all the changes. No, you can't do it. I think that's the most healthiest place thing is I can't do this by myself. I need to partner. I need to value others. I need to appreciate other people in their lane, but also to find your lane. What are you good at? What is your lane? See, we know what we're good at. We crash parties and make pancakes. Well, not hard, but that's our lane. But we're a bridge between the mental health services, between emergency services, between all those other services and education. We just know our lane, but do you know your lane? And once you figure out your lane, you know who to partner with. And strategic partnerships are real key to achieving a lot with what you want to do. Also, too, I found this is that really about cultural change. And if you want to make cultural change and creating cultural change, and we've seen some amazing culture change in schoolies. It is radically different to what was. Amazing changes in university campuses. They're radically different to back in the day as well. Festivals, still a journey, but getting there. They're improving. And I must compliment, event organisers put resource into the welfare of patrons now, and they're being serious about it. They're doing a good job in what they're doing, and some of the systems they're putting in is great. But I found this with culture changes. Culture has changed a little bit over a long period of time. And one of my hero organisations is the smoking lobby. I just can't believe the changes they made. Back in my day, you could smoke in restaurants and planes and anywhere, but they just started chipping away. They started taking it out of sports sponsorship. They took it out of this, and they chipped away little by little by little to see the change now in the whole smoking culture of our nation. See, cultures change a little over a long period of time. Just do the little things now. Just change what you can now and be consistent in that little, and you'll see big change over a long period of time. Also, cultures change from the inside out, not outside in. Cultures change from inside out, not outside in. So for us as frogs, getting in those hotel rooms, doing pancakes gets us inside to see who is the responsible one in that unit. And they're the one that will ring and give them confidence to say, you can ring 000, mate. Even your mate's taking drugs, they're not going to get in trouble. Empowering that one to get there just in time, not after time. See, culture's changed inside out, and it's finding who are the influencers in who you're trying to work with, and how can you empower them in that community to make change within rather than an outside-in approach. So inside-out approaches are often the most powerful type of programs that I see as well. And also too, I think in leadership too, in culture, more's caught than taught. More's caught than taught, that you need to model the culture you want to see in your organisation. And this, for example, at my workplace, one of my board members and my boss walked into work one day and he actually picked this paddle pop stick up, put it in the bin and kept walking. I walked into work the next day and I saw a piece of paper on the ground, actually picked it up, put it in the bin and kept walking. Now, I would have just ignored that previously, and we could have had 27 meetings on keeping the grounds clean and PowerPoint presentations and all these things. But because I saw my boss do it, I did it. See, more's caught than taught. See, people are going to catch the culture you set. So you've got to become the change and become the culture you want to see in your organisation for others to follow that as well. But also too, I guess, one of the keys for me, and also going the longevity in community programs, because who knows there's some challenges in what you do. Who knows volunteers aren't that reliable all the time. Who knows they drop out with an hour's notice and leave you in a massive hole all the time, and so they're going to let you down. They're going to do that. So one thing for me, that's our 28th year of doing this, is you've got to know the why behind the what. You've got to know your why you do what you do. When you know why you do what you do, you'll ride out those tough seasons. You'll ride out when people let you down. You'll ride out when you didn't get that government funding. You'll ride those seasons out if you know the why behind the what you do. And for me, it's just the ones. It's girls like Jasmine Baker who went to Bali that was in a club and had a drink and was feeling a bit funny. And her girlfriend said, let's walk you home. And as they walked out, we have a walk home tent in the middle of Kuta. And they were on the other side of the road. They said, let's go over the walk home tent and see the froggies. So they brought her across, and one of our froggies just happened to be a nurse and said, no, you can't go home. This is methanol poisoning. And we got her to the International Medical Centre, airlifted out to Darwin, and literally saved her life. And now Jasmine's had her first kid, 8 years later, down in the Central Coast, and doing amazing advocacy on the methanol poisoning in her, her story. But see, Jasmine's worth it. See, you got to know your why. You got to know why you do what you do, and for me, it's those ones. Also, some keys on volunteers and some keys on how we recruit volunteers and maintain volunteers. We've got about 4,500 volleys that do Red Frogs. Some of the keys I found this, and as a coordinator and leader, you got to be a good storyteller. You got to learn to tell stories. Learn stories about what your team's doing. Dig in a bit deeper. Find the story behind it. I love Dave's story, and his story is compelling, about his background, what he's doing now, inspiring. But when you become a good storyteller, you become you can influence people. That encourages people to volunteer as well. Also, too, when you've got a volunteer culture, you've got to make it fun. You've got to make it fun. But can I say, stop sucking on lemons? We've got to have a bit more fun. I know what we do is serious. I know there's serious stuff, but hey, we've got to have a bit of fun with it too. I know there's serious stuff, but we've got to make it fun. Have a bit of fun, buy that indoor frisbee down the hallway. Take 5 minutes to play a bit of carpet bowls down the hallway, Have some fun with your team. Make sure, don't lose the fun. Don't lose that bit of energy. And if you've got a designated fun person, let them loose. Okay, you've got 5 minutes, do whatever you want. Get a gorilla suit, go down the hallway, I don't care, go for it. But have some fun with your volleys, make it a good atmosphere. That creates a good culture as well. Also too, one thing we need to do also more, and we also need to do is we try to value add to the volunteering experience at Frogs. So for me, I'm always hitting up businesses. I'm hitting up Grilled, can we get discount vouchers for the volleys down at the Gourley? Betty's, can you do some vouchers? Yochi, can we get a discount for our volleys? I want to make the volunteering experience as best as they can be for that volunteer. So I look to value add. What are the little things I can add onto it to up the experience in what they do? That everyone gets a free whatever Yochi voucher or free this, and but anything I can get, and you'll be amazed at how generous businesses are. They love what you do. They're looking for opportunity to support their community as well, but your organisation's the vehicle to do it. So spend time with business. Spend time, get to know your local businesses. Get out there because they want to support what you do. And if you value add to that experience, it means a better chance of coming back next time to volunteer and keeping that sustainability as well. Also, too, what we do, we celebrate volunteers. Celebrate your volunteers as well. We have a thing called Frogger of the Day. Frog of the day. And everyone nominates, a couple of the team members of what was your story of the day, who gets Frog of the day. And some of the Froggers of the day I've seen are just, one got vomited and urinated on all in one night. So they were definitely the Frogger of the day for sure. Again, the team that did the 25K walk homes proved by Strava in that one 24-hour period, they got the Frogger of the day for that team as well. But celebrate it. So we get, again, vouchers, grilled vouchers that come and, hey, here's free grilled burgers just to celebrate what you guys are doing. So learn to celebrate the wins, celebrate the wins with your team, but also reward them where you can with that as well. But also one key, I guess, I found in volunteers, this has been a bit of a shift for me because I love working with young people. I love crashing parties. I love that side. But I've actually shifted my focus back to the volunteers a little bit more because I can get caught up in the work of frogs, but don't realise and appreciate enough the people actually doing that work. So in my time frame and how I set it aside at a schoolies week, I'll definitely go visit rooms and do media and all that sort of stuff. But I'll make sure I got time for kebab o'clock later in the night, that I drop into the kebab shops, which are just covered with all the froggers recouping at 2 a.m, and just sit down with the team, shout them a kebab, sit down and listen to their stories. Go do a run down to Broady and drive a team home that's just done a massive walk home, 8.2 Ks down there, and drive them back. And also too, around the dinner times, we feed all our volunteers at one of the mantras there. We put on dinners for them because, again, feeding volunteers is really important to get good mileage over a week out of them as well. So I sit down and get to know the people that are actually serving in this amazing thing called Red Frogs. So I think relationships are important. Build good relationships with your volunteers. Let them get to know you and you get to know them. And it means everything, I dropped out, at 2 a.m. to just say, hey, you're a legend. You're good. Thank you for what you're doing. Those little thank yous, those little appreciation moments go a long way with volunteers. But also build strong relationships is really important too. Also too, a good thing as organisational leaders too, we need to protect our teams from the politics of what we do. We need to protect our teams from the politics of what we do. You're in fighting for your organisations. You're going to battle. You're taking on. You're breaking into stuff no one's done before and increasing. So there's a bit of friction there. Sometimes you're going to have some frictional things. In the engine room, there's a lot of friction in those engine rooms too. But we need to protect our volleys from that. We need to make sure our language, we're not talking about things that are internal, external. We want to keep good culture out and keep your internal. And so I know you want to vent. That's why you get a cat. You can vent on the cat, patting it, being nice to it, But, or, a punching bag in Nathan's case, boxing, whatever it is. But, have your places you vent, have safe places to vent, but we need to protect our team from the politics of what we do sometimes. Also, too, as Nathan said to do, we need to... Again, with social media, get someone doing social media or actually have a social media strategy. Again, how young people communicate and how volunteers communicate as well. We got 2 teams that just focus totally on that. I was amazed at schoolies this year asking, where'd you hear about red frogs? And I said, I'll go up to a schoolie, do you know about red frogs? They go, yeah, we do. Do you see it on TV? No. Did your brothers and sisters tell you? No. Did you see us at school? No. Where'd you hear it? Oh, TikTok. Yeah, I know what you do through TikTok. So it's amazing how many students knew that. I said, well done, social media team. I got no idea on TikTok. It's a clock that hit me on the head. I still wouldn't have an idea. But again, you've got to get people in that space and young people in your team to develop those strategies. That communication arm is really good. And also your designs, make sure your volunteer shirts and your media is good, looks good. Get young people to design it. We design our shirts every year. We get young people coming in designing our shirts. We want it fresh and be with the cultural trends as well. So make sure you don't get stuck in an old generational sort of image, but see if you can get a new spin on it. Keeping your heritage, very important to keep your heritage, but in that, to get new volunteers, you've got to do new things. And also get new marketing strategies and get visuals. Visuals are very important in your media. Who enjoyed the True Story? Hamish and Andy, True Story report there. So again, being creative, comedy is a great way to do that. Using your social, but also in your designs as well, and getting really good design kit is great. Excellent. Well, I finished with 3 minutes to go there. And I'll just sum up some of the things again. The power of little is great. You can't do everything, but you can do something. Include others. You'll achieve more as a team. Culture is everything big starts small. It's changed inside out and caught not Know your why, what you do. Also become good at telling stories with your volunteers as well. Have fun. You need to add value with your volunteers as well. Also too, celebrate the wins and also build relationships with your volunteers as well. Also protect your team. And also one other thing too is have a realistic expectation on your team. Sometimes we need to cut the steak up a bit smaller these days. You know, we sometimes expect them to have a high level of commitment and also try to match our level of commitment. We've taken 28 years to get to this stage. So again, take what people can give you. If they can just volunteer half an hour, great. An hour, great. A couple of hours, fantastic. Just take what people can give and again, break down your program. Do those micro, and I really like that bit of advice from Nathan. Maybe micro projects could be the answer to that as well. But again, we need to lower our expectations so we have more wins and have more wins with people as well. And then also too, again, be good, get someone on your socials. Fantastic. Well, I just want to appreciate everyone in this room. We couldn't do what we do without what you do. And it's amazing the impact you have in our great state of Queensland and what you're doing, making way for so many Queenslanders to find their purpose and find passion and find significance too. Like for me as an accountant, having this opportunity then to find some significance outside my accounting career and my little world was such a fulfilling thing, but you're doing that for so many people. So on behalf of Red Frogs, I want to thank you for what you do and making such a difference with Queenslanders. Thank you.
What an incredible story and organisation Red Frogs is. We've just a quick little story about Red Frogs. We've got a place at Surfers, and in order to, as a media practitioner, understand schoolies, you might think we would leave Surfers Paradise at Schoolies Weekend, but we've actually spent the last 3 weekends down there. Now we do get into our own unit by 8 o'clock because Surfers changes after 8 o'clock at night, and we're getting old. But they truly appreciate what the schoolies appreciate the Red Froggers, and I can just see the joy in your volunteers. You'll see a dozen or more schoolies sort of walking up the mall, and then there's 4 Red Froggers, and then there's the schoolies, and then the Red Froggers. But as they come the other way, they're all high-fiving, and they just love it all. But to the culture changing down there, the funniest thing that we saw, the first Schoolies Weekend that we actually were in our own apartment at Surfers, yes, the lifts are packed, and we were squashed into this lift with all these schoolies. And my wife loves it. I mean, they go, "Yes, miss. Sorry, miss. You know, are you okay?" They're really kind and considerate of old people like us. And then this bloke pushes a trolley in, and what we'd been expecting to see was a trolley full of slabs of beer. This guy had 6 boxes of Cocoa Pops and 3 2-litre bottles of milk. Like they had never been allowed to have Cocoa Pops at home. But schoolies, woo, Cocoa Pops. Love it. Okay, let's get back up on stage. Nathan Hulls, Andy Gourley, David Jongkuch, and Parris Smith, if you would like to join us for a panel discussion on youth engagement. Which will be for 25 minutes thereabouts. Now, I've got questions here, which I'm happy to ask, but I'm also well aware we haven't really had the opportunity to hear any questions yet or have any interaction from the floor, whether it be here in Brisbane or online. So I wonder if there's anyone that would actually like to ask a question to kick off the panel discussion. Anyone got a burning question from any of the speakers this morning that you'd like to start off with? Yes, in the middle, and then we'll come over here. So we got the microphone, so just about 4 more rows down, and then in the middle over there. And a reminder that online, on Slido, whether you're in the room or joining us online, go to the Q&A section and you can add your questions there.
Thank you. And it was great to hear all of your stories. Fantastic. I just wanted to direct a question to you, Andy. Wanted to ask you about a training program where your organisation's concerned, because there would be some in-depth training, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something we've developed over many, many years now, and also with the help of Queensland Ambulance and also all the other stakeholders on the coast. We get them come in and do sessions with our teams and Queensland Police, but our thing's referral. We're very much catch and pass, so we want to limit the duty of care to our workers, that we're not paramedics, we're not counsellors, we're not that. We just see something's not right and we get the right people to it. So very much we're a bridge between the two worlds. So most of our training's around referrals, and then we have different protocols around serious incidents. So we have different levels of incident. If it's a serious incident, we parachute in another more professional team, exit that team, and we have mandatory debriefing depending on the incident that you face now. So we find that the care for volunteers is very important, and even not just after the event, but then a couple of months after the event as well. So depending on the incident, it depends on the level of debriefing and also follow-up you'll need to do with volunteers. So the volunteer care has been something that we worked on over many, many years, but again, and getting other organisations in to train is the key for us. We're only experts in what we do, but we need the experts in their field and the mental health, early intervention, and we get them in to train us.
There was a question over here somewhere. So while we get the microphone to you, Andy, how do you actually source your volunteers? You talked about how the schoolies hear about you, but how do you recruit? Where do you find them?
Yeah, well, our origins is for me through local churches, and we recruit for schoolies. We recruit through organisations, not individuals. It only take one goose to get us on Today, Tonight or Current Affair. So organisations submit groups to us, and they get an organisational check. Then we do the blue card checks, and then they'll come in and do our training and go under experienced team leaders. So for us, for schoolies, it's organisations, but for our Cricket Australia, it's a bit more of an open program where we can have people from other public come in and work with Cricket Australia and us at sporting events. And unis, we work through residential colleges and through those communities. So it depends on the project and depends on the level of sort of risk in those projects.
Do you let non-volunteers wear your T-shirts? Because as you've seen, I'm a bit of a jacket and T-shirt guy myself. We can talk about that later, mate.
We've got some Froggy merch. We've actually got Froggy merch for Friends of the Frog, yes. So we've developed some frog merch for sure.
On the left here, there's a question.
Hi, I'm Marion from Rosterfy, and outside of my full-time work, I volunteer for St John Ambulance, New South Wales, State Emergency Service, Share the Dignity, Royal Australasian College of Surgeons, and the Warrior Women Foundation, and I do about 1,000 hours a year in volunteering, if not more. And my role is Deputy Commissioner. Thank you.
Hey, well done.
My role is Deputy Commissioner of St John Ambulance New South Wales, and I'm very lucky to be part of the executive team and look after 1,000 cadets across the state. Wow. And the biggest question I get asked at the moment compared to 10, 20 years ago is our cadets want more flexibility in volunteering. And I'm a big believer in go and ask them what they want, but I want to hear from the panel, have you seen any good examples or ideas of increasing flexibility in volunteering?
I'm a big one on reverse engineering an outcome to think, what is the outcome that you're looking for in regards to from a volunteer or a group of volunteers, what are you looking to achieve from having them volunteer? And then reverse engineering to work out with the context of the people that I'm working with, how do we best see that outcome happen, if that makes sense? So I think sometimes we can look at it from the perspective of a set number of hours. We need volunteers to cover these hours. So I can't say from a example of a real world scenario to say this organisation's done it this way, but I think everyone has echoed the same sort of sentiment around this current generation is about micro, where it suits, like bite-sized pieces of volunteer opportunity. So that's going to suit some organisations better than others, but how do you break down the outcome that you're trying to achieve into, rather than 10 volunteers, 100 volunteers, where they may need more flexibility of time, more flexibility of commitment. So from a 10,000 foot overview, that would probably be my response. I don't have examples of organisations in terms of similar to what you're saying.
Parris or David, do you have examples?
Yeah, I was going to say, I've worked with Rotary and the Ryla side of things, and we've had examples where we'll post, we've got a fundraiser coming up, so we need some people for a car show to volunteer. We put that call out to all of our different alumni organisations across the state, and then people are just putting their hand up, oh yeah, I'm free this Saturday, I can help out. So it becomes that opportunity where they're not necessarily involved in our team ongoing, but they go, yep, I can give 3 hours of my time and I can do that shift. We've also looked at outsourcing our social media campaigns, Because we find that while we can come up with ideas as well, some people just don't have the time or the expertise to be able to create that social media content. So outsourcing that and asking volunteers who has experience in making social media content, you can actually hire someone or have someone work for only a week or 2 weeks less, and they can make up to 6 months worth of content. You can then put that on a schedule and have that posted at regular intervals. So it's having a short stint of someone that can help out. Depends on what you do need, like Nathan was saying, what the areas are and what you need for volunteers. But beyond that, then you can ask, these are what we have, who can put up some time, who can help out?
Great question. Does anyone else in the room have a question? So there's one in the middle just up.
Spencer, we have one from online here.
Thank you, Imogen. Yes.
So what's the biggest mistake that organisations make with engaging Gen Z?
Who would like to take that? Parris, do you want to? You're probably
For me, my pet peeve would be being told I'm too busy or I can't handle something. The amount of times I've been told that my age means I can't take on a leadership position, it gets on my nerves a bit. While I might be young and look even younger, it doesn't mean that I don't have that experience or expertise to be able to take on those challenges. Just ask. Ask. Say what the end goal is. Say this is what we're looking for. Who would like to apply or step up to this position? Because more often than not, you'll find a young person go, oh yeah, I'd love that challenge. I might need a mentor or some tips along the way, but I want that challenge. We want to be pushed to that next level. So I find making that assumption on, oh, sorry, you're too young to be able to handle that leadership position, that's one of the biggest pet peeves and mistakes I see a lot of organisations making.
Nathan, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I'd say tokenism, where there's an awareness of need for youth engagement, and maybe even within the organisation and the governance, and maybe it's a government organisation that want to be seen as engaging young people. There is activity of youth engagement, but it's more tokenistic, and even working with councils where they'll create a youth advisory group, but really they're a toothless tiger because they're not actually empowered to bring the change that the young people like. And so end up the young people are unmotivated. They realise they're not stupid. They've got a BS monitor that works better than anyone, and they'll know whether or not they're genuinely being engaged. So tokenism, where sometimes it starts at the bureaucracy that we're a part of, where it's a tick of the box, we need to engage young people. And I think that also then leads to us as adults assuming we know what young people want or assuming we know what young people need. So genuinely engaging young people in that consultative approach to understand from their perspective, how do we better engage your generation? What are the strategies that, and then with that coach approach coming alongside to empower them to see those changes happen.
David, have you encountered tokenism? You are a young person, but you're also from a culturally diverse background. Is tokenism or assumptions about what you might or might not be interested in something that you've discovered?
I think so. I think with the pushing barriers, what we've actually encountered is that a lot of the young people that we want to actually get them to work with us is that we assume that they're not inclined in actually also giving back. And we don't really go to them like, hey, there's opportunities here. Do you have time for it? I think to answer, I think there was a question that was the first question that came on. I think we can look at alternatives of how we can, with volunteering, for example, with pushing barriers, we have to transport the young people. So sometimes, we could look at options such as Uber, right? We could also look at empowering some of their parents. For my mom, it took her like 9 attempts just to get her driver's license, but I think that's a world record. But like if with pushing barriers, we had actually looked into that and maybe helped her get her license sooner, then maybe she could also be helping with taking the kids.
Yeah, that's a good point. Are there any other questions at this point in the room? Where are the microphones? We've got one there. There we go, yes. Up the middle.
Can you hear me?
Yes, just speak up, but it is on, yes.
It's on? Yeah. Oh, hello. So it's Bernadette and Lois from Not-for-Profit House. So we work with organisations that are all volunteer run, particularly their committees. but the succession planning of trying to bring new people in is a real problem. And so we're trying to look at some healthy wisdom or wise words around the intergenerational. Now, you've spoken to some of that, about how to not just get young people, but others, but particularly young people, to journey with them in the succession planning. Have you got any wisdom to offer about that intergenerational?
Yeah, anyone want to pick up on that? Advice on bringing through that next generation of volunteers. Parris and I were talking about it just before, that I was in Interact, which is the high school Rotary, and my late stepfather was a president of Rotary. And I've wondered all my life why I've never joined Rotary. And I'm not having a go at Rotary, but there's been a gap in my life. I should have joined Rotaract, and then I should have joined Rotary. So any ideas on bridging that gap from any of you?
Yeah, looking at how you can support local schools and high schools, and for us, our high school program is a very vital piece of Frogs, and looking at any sort of presence you can have in there to engage and build relationships with those schools, with the young generation coming through, even volunteering opportunities for young people to come in and doing tours as part of their studies. So trying to integrate your program within the school base, as it could be one of their social studies programs, could want to study your organisation and come in and do an assignment on it. So it's looking at ways that you can get some feeder programs coming in to bring awareness of what you do and hopefully spark something in a young person to come and volunteer future. So I'd say schools and looking at maybe their social science programs is the first thing I come to mind. But for me, engagement with schools is important. Yeah.
Something reflecting on even David's story, and again, it's going to be contextual to depend on the service that you provide, but often I've found young people who have been positively impacted by a service are very inclined to want to then give back in that same service. So if it's relevant to your organisation, identifying ways that you can continue engagement with a young person who has been positively impacted by your organisation through low-level leadership development programs to help them go beyond just, you've been a service we've provided. It might be a at-risk type service, or it might be an early intervention type service, but taking it beyond that step to then look at a program that can then look at integration into leadership development, so creating opportunities for young people. The leadership camps that we developed, we had participants come and they were positively impacted by the camp, and then we created graduate opportunities for someone who had participated. They could come back as a graduate, and then they could come back as a youth coach. And so really, young people who are positively impacted by your services are prime picking for people who might be inclined to want to be able to lead in your service.
If I may build on that as well, consider other organisations that might be able to give your team members leadership abilities or support them in another way. So for example, like with Ryla, we've got the leadership skills, but we're not expecting our participants, while a lot of them do want to come back, it's not necessary that they come back to our organisation. We actually have a lot of SES volunteers and Army cadets come and do our program, and they do it as a certificate of completion to say that they've done some leadership development skills and had that, and then they put that into their own organisation and practice. So it's looking at other organisations too, or other programs that they could do and say, hey, we might sponsor you or consider you to be a leader if you do these other things as well. And then this is going to be your agreement going on, that you would become more progressed in your program, for example. So look at other opportunities around them as well, because I think that a lot of young people would look and go, okay, your organisation offers me one thing, I can just move up and be the leader there. What else can it develop skill-wise? How else can I apply it? Or if I don't feel like I've got the skills to actually put it into your organisation, where can I find those skills? Where can I develop that in me?
David, just as one example here, what motivated you to get into volunteering?
Giving back, to be honest.
Oh. There's the other mic. Have we got the handheld mic? No. Try again. Oh, yeah, we're good. Yeah.
It's working. Just to give back, just from the gratitude of the people who were committing their time and their resources to support me with my soccer team, right? So yeah, just to give back, and I guess also to add on the point that you guys were on. I think rather than just allocating, social media and, the fun kind of positions, for the youth. We could also have, for example, like in the next AGM at Pushing Barriers, I'm going to be a culture advisor. So that kind of also brings me into the executive team. So I'm just thinking, what if I had been a part of that, maybe, because I've been with them for 7 years now. So what if I was a part of that 4 years ago, right? Then I would have insight into how the whole organization works. And if, you guys go on sabbaticals, then somebody can step in. So, yeah.
Thank you, David. Well, everyone today has talked about go where they are to find young volunteers. You were, I suppose, involved with an organisation, and then you were able to give back. I mean, all of you have told that same story. Are there any more questions here in the room? And have we got the microphone with anyone that's got a question? Yes, over here on the left.
Sorry, thank you. Andy, just a couple of questions. One's already just been answered, but I'm just going to ask it anyway, just because I'm interested in for you. So I work for the Salvation Army. We see a lot of participants in our spaces that we are in, and I guess for us, it's how do we change that participation of receiving the service that we provide to then engaging them to keep people on the straight and narrow, or to keep them from veering off to other areas where their lives have gone messy. So I guess for you, yours is a very much a experiential experience for your volunteers, but also for the people that you're visiting. I wonder if what do you have strategies for how you engage any of those participants that you've built a relationship over that week or the time that you do have with them? Also, what is your average age of your volunteers?
Yeah, great questions. Average age of our volunteers is 18 to 23. We do have some long-term froggers. I think one did 25 years of red frogs, just Quentin Brown, he's 70. So we have all age groups that do it, but majority would be 18 to 22. I guess for us, it's putting purpose to their passion, is finding what their passion is. So we've had to be a little bit more flexible. One of the things is not being as rigid with our systems and rigid with our programs. So we have to find out who is the volunteer coming in, what do they love doing, and can I make way for their passion to be a part of that. So sometimes it's about being just a little bit flexible in our programs and systems to allow pathways for their passions to evolve and to do what they love doing. So, for example, if you got people that love barbecuing and cooking, the pancake masters, they come in and they just dominate that area. We got a lot of our IT guys that just would not even be able to communicate in a room full of schoolies, but love IT land. They're just in our IT hub at schoolies, doing all our databases and referral programs and everything. They just love it. Created these incredible systems for us. So finding their passion, developing passion, not programs, is my thing. Don't just develop your program, develop passion in people to make way. And for example, for clients, when I was running my skateboarding clubs, with the actual skaters, I'd actually get them helping me run the club too, help me organise stuff and give them leadership roles when they are young to step up within boundaries. So obviously they're still on their drug and alcohol journey and they're doing their thing, but it's good. Responsibility is a good thing. Responsibility helps change. So I look at what aspect of what I'm running this youth club tonight could this young skater do to help me and organise that. So we did a food fight one week with 28 crates of rotten fruit from Rockley Market. So I've got the guys in there, helping me get all the fruit. That was awesome. But, but get them active, get them involved. I think get them helping you help others. And so they see the why behind what you're doing as well for the actual people you're working with. And hopefully then once they do get on the straight and narrow, they can take leadership roles, which a lot end up doing. But it took 5 to 7 years before some of those kids would be in a place to do that because of their backgrounds.
Such a great point that you make, Andy, about all the other roles that take place or are needed in an organisation. It's like the iceberg, isn't it? And I think just about community radio from my world, where a lot of people assume that you've got to be on the radio if you volunteer at a community radio station. Well, no, that's like a tiny part of what the volunteers are needed for, and it would be the same in all organisations.
Yeah, spot on.
Yes.
Can I just jump on the back of that, just to talk about the journey of sometimes progressing with, say, schoolies. I've been involved in schoolies, I've been involved in Bendigo Uni, Red Frog, so it's awesome being on the same stage with Andy. But so year 12s, and I don't know the purposefulness of whether this was a progression, but year 12s, obviously they go to schoolies, and often it's a local, so let's say Bendigo group went to a prominent place, would have been somewhere down near Torquay, somewhere where they know Bendigo schoolies are likely to go. So there's a local group of Red Froggers who are going to an area that they know local Bendigo year 12s are going to go, and then that same group of Red Froggers are involved in the university campus, so they've got some opportunity for that relationship to be fostered and continued over time. So it might be that, as another example, an initial program might be an outreach type of program, but having progressions as they follow through a particular journey within the scope of whatever your organisation is responsible for, but looking at ways where you know that, okay, this is where we've helped them here, what might be the next most likely step for a progression within our organisation, and having teams of people who are able to kind of follow people through on that journey. That's my experience.
We need at some point to get a microphone down to this lady here who's been asking constantly, but do we have the mic with anyone else at this point? We've got an online question.
I've got one more online question. So we were talking about, Parris has been talking about not pigeonholing young people, and we've all talked about how we don't want to put young people in boxes, and they're not always the problem. So our question from online is, how do you encourage volunteer managers to embrace change rather than reject change?
That's tough. That's a good one.
Good question.
Good question. Who has the answer?
None of us, arguably.
I would say, my thing is why. It's all about purpose. Why is it important? And so coming back to asking the volunteer who may be resistant to change, sometimes you need to look at the negative and talk about what's going to happen if you don't. And that was one of my slides literally said, you are one generation away from being extinct. So the question needs to be, why? Why is it important to us? Is this organisation important enough for us to learn about the next generation, engage with the next generation, to have that succession plan? It's a challenge. Change is hard. Change is a challenge. But without that challenge, we remain the same, and we never remain the same. There is no management. We're only going backwards if we're not going forwards. And so I think the reality to be aware of the negative, if we don't engage the next generation, again, Einstein said it so well, do the same thing over and over again, expect a different result is insanity. We can't, if we're not growing, we're dying. We can't keep doing what we're doing and expect that young people are just going to jump on board. So that would be, it has to come back to purpose.
And we will revisit intergenerational volunteering later in the conference. You have a question.
Hi, I'm Patsy. I'm from Exercise and Sports Science Australia. My question is really for David. You spoke about going into diverse communities. If you're not aware of how to approach a diverse community to engage with young people or just people in cultural backgrounds, how do we approach your communities in a respectful manner if you're not aware of the protocols, cultural protocols that come with, and things that are not event-based, different times of the year where I would like to advocate for a lot of what's happening in your communities, especially with our organisation. We work a lot with health and sports, soccer, and all our professions are exercise physiologists, exercise scientists, sports scientists. So reaching our communities, especially with our diverse backgrounds with health conditions as well as sporting conditions, how do we approach diverse communities if we're not aware of how to? Yeah.
Thank you. That's a very good question. Personally, I think if you go to spaces such as like universities. You go there, you find young African youth, and I think they're more open to helping you with penetrating into these communities. Say if you, let's say, you wanted my mom to participate, let's say in health and stuff like that, then you'll be like, hey David, okay, how do we get through to like your mom, your aunt, your uncle, and I'll be like, just go to the church that she goes to, you'll find her there. So those are like such kind of ways that you can basically get to them. I think also social media is pretty good as well. I think everybody's on Facebook and TikTok. I think if you go through those channels, and there's also formal channels such as organizations. For example, here in Queensland we have the Queensland African Community Council, so that's a very good one. Just have a chat with them and they should be able to help you.
Great question. Thank you. And thank you. And he's been threatening to do that to me all morning. Did you, Nathan? Anyway, look, thank you so much. Building stronger communities is something that I think that we all aspire to, and clearly volunteers play a huge role and will continue to do so. And getting the young ones in, and we need to do, otherwise it's all going to fall apart. So I hope you've enjoyed as much as I have this morning's emphasis on youth engagement. Please thank Nathan, Andy, Parris and David. Thank you. Thank you all. We've got a final presentation before we break for lunch. You'd be pleased to know we're on time now. You're going to hear from Shannan Gove, who's the co-founder of Rosterfy and gold sponsor for this conference. As we continue to explore the evolving landscape of volunteering, you're going to hear from a leader in volunteer management that's been shaping the future for over a decade. Rosterfy has partnered with some of the world's leading volunteering programs to design solutions that not only engage volunteers at scale, but also create lasting impact. Rosterfy is the leading volunteer management solution for non-profits, cities, sporting federations, and events. So to give you some examples, in Queensland alone, Rosterfy works with Brisbane City Council, Oz Harvest, Cancer Council, the Children's Hospital Foundation, plus Lifeline Australia, British Heart Foundation, the last 9 Super Bowls, and many more. Today, we're diving into lessons learned from working with the world's leading volunteering programs and what the future holds. And in this 15-minute session, you will gain actionable strategies from Rosterfy's 10+ years of experience, insights that will help you to build a thriving volunteer program with long-term success. So if you're looking to elevate your volunteer management practices and make a greater impact, this is a session that you won't want to miss. Let's give a warm welcome to the co-founder of Rosterfy, Shannan Gove.
Green button, beauty. So great to meet everyone today. I'm conscious this is the first time we've actually been Rosterfy up in Queensland for a state volunteering conference. So Jane, thank you so much for having us. It's a privilege to be here. And thanks for this morning's presenters. Andy, your journey really resonates with our journey as a business as well. So I wanted to do a little brief introduction about who we are first and why does Rosterfy even exist? What do we care about as an organisation? So Andy talking about going around to all these unis. As a sports management student myself in 2010 and with my cousin Bennett, we wanted to find experience, to volunteer, to get casual work, and so we developed a business almost by accident called Event Workforce, which by 2010 to 2015 we grew to be Australia's largest youth employment sort of agency in events and sports. We had about 25,000 young Australians from every key university around the country, staffing about 1,500 events a year. So Andy, the cricket tours, the music festivals, that was us on the scrim, handing out things, building the sites, colour runs, all these events, and we just had spreadsheets coming out our ears and we didn't know how to manage people. The staff themselves as university students were not getting a great experience, and so that's why we developed our own platform for mass workforce management, for the chaos that is thousands and thousands of people, and For the first few years of running this, we had lots of clients or people in the space saying, hey, can we use this platform you built? And we actually said no. We're like, no, because this is our tool that we have. But about 2016, 2017, we realized, like, what do we care about as people? And that's about connecting community. And we realized that through a platform, we can make a much greater impact around the world. And that's when we launched Rosterfy as a centralized, and number one, we want to be the very best in the world at managing mass workforce management. Since that point in time, we've now delivered over 100 million hours of volunteering through our platform across 35 countries. And I guess through that journey, have worked with we're really fortunate to work with some amazing customers. And I think a prime example might be like the FIFA globally. And a lot of you may not have heard the word Rosterfy before. It's because it's a fully white label platform. Our clients are the ones that's their brand front and center. You wouldn't even know Rosterfy's there, but some of the sharpest volunteer experiences around the world are done through Rosterfy on our platform, okay? So I guess the purpose of today was really highlighting some of our customers around the globe and what are some impacts they've done and what are some takeaways you might have. Maybe I've got quite a few little points in here, but I want to be clear around just like there might be one thing that resonates with you about how do other organisations do it that you could learn from, okay? So the first one here, British Heart Foundation, the UK. This year, we spoke a lot today about getting to where people are. For example, for them, they've got QR codes in all their retail outlets across the country and local areas. And they've got public opportunity pages where volunteers can filter and find the exact role that connects with them as a person, compared to starting it with a reg form that they then need to go through and eventually find their role. This helps them find their role that's open at that time and then onboard directly into that position. It all ties into headcount so that you know what roles are available and volunteers aren't wasting their time applying for roles that aren't available today. A massive statistic they've had, in the first year, they doubled the amount of volunteering hours without adding more volunteers because it was easy for volunteers on the mobile app to be able to do more. So previously, I was just a volunteer that did Sunday mornings. I then realised that I'm available on a Wednesday afternoon. I can then help in this part of the organisation as well. So they doubled the amount of output without growing the amount of volunteers. A second thing we see as a real challenge is organisations are just, if I ask them how many volunteers are dropping off that want to help you, they haven't been able to onboard. And a big thing that we hear, how many people in the room use Seek Volunteer? Quite a few. And so quite a few of you have probably felt the experience of potentially the disconnect. Firstly, if you posting roles onto Seek, you need to do it twice in your systems and then on Seek. Secondly, volunteers that have to basically re-register twice. What we've spent the last 18 months building with Seek, and we're launching today effectively here at this conference, which we're really excited about, is Australia's first and only two-way integration with Seek Volunteer. So a way that you can post your opportunities once, automatically live on Seek. Secondly, those volunteers will automate through their onboarding directly into your positions. They do not need to do this twice to drastically increase your conversion rates. So a big thing of like, if someone asks me, what does Rosterfy do? The number one thing that we do is configurable automations. So automations in particular, the obvious spot is around automating the onboarding experience for volunteers to reduce some manual work for your team to be sitting there emailing people back and forth, to progress them through background checks, things like that. But what's really important is that your volunteers can do more than just the one thing they signed up to begin with. They can be more, and we've heard from the team today, how they want to progress more. Give them the opportunity to see roles in your organisation that they can self-onboard, do training modules, inductions, go through interview processes for multiple roles, and that's what we allow our clients to do on our platform. Lifeline Australia, some pretty impressive stats in terms of what they've been able to do through automations. Instead of previously working in very manual systems to do this, they're able to progress more volunteers and get more volunteers making impact. There's lots of these samples, but just here's a pretty good example here of an organisation that's effectively halving the amount of work that they were doing in volunteer administration, in particular in onboarding. And I think that's when we talk about we're all crying out for more resources in the volunteering department, we can also become more efficient too. So I think another thing here, in particular, a lot of organisations would somewhat be configuring their volunteers in some sort of CRM or something. I think this is where Golf Australia, prime example here, they would have the champs up in Brisbane and all the different states. They would all be run differently in the way they manage things. And each golf club would run their own spreadsheet of volunteers. I'm sure people in the room can connect with this, with silos of the organisation, the way they manage volunteers. In Rosterfy, we create a central, global platform for that organisation that can personalise the experience for each area that they go to. So in Brisbane, they run things slightly different to the way they do in Victoria. That's okay. You can do that, but all in one system and a central database. And they doubled the amount of volunteers they had in the first year. Here's a live example. For anyone that knows football and soccer, UEFA is a big client of ours. If you picture UEFA being the top body and all those 4 sub-bodies underneath with their own organisation, with their own administrators, their own process, their own branding, that's fine. You can bring them under one banner in one centralised platform in Rosterfy. We've built this functionality with FIFA, and I guess our clients see the better outcome for it. And I get it, everyone's like, well, we do things differently. That's fine, you can, but you can still create a central database that if I work with Lifeline on a Wednesday, then I can volunteer with another organisation on Wednesday in one identity. You don't need to have 6 or 7 or 8. And I think this is where, for me, I'm really passionate about this sort of green and gold runway that we talk internally about for Brisbane. How do you create a central volunteer passport and ID that you can connect across multiple organisations? We've spent the time to build the technology and it's available today. I think this is a big one. People get so caught up in data teams on making sure you have a single identity. It makes sense, it's true, but that's why we have two-way integrations with the likes of Salesforce, Microsoft, Blackboard and others that are the central, often for non-profits, they're the CRMs that you're using. And so that's why we have that for a reason, instead of you trying to custom build and wrestle something in a CRM like a Salesforce. So that's where we plug very nicely into them, and we're actually global partners of a lot of those organisations. Andy touched on it about corporate partners. Corporate volunteering is tough if you're trying to manage it as one person with a head of HR of these 12 different organisations around. We've built out a corporate volunteering module where some of our clients now, like the Sydney Marathon, if you look at the numbers within the first year or 2 years of their impact that they've been able to have, by scaling this and empowering these corporates to manage their own show, in effect, do all their reporting, recruit all their employees, keep them in the same space, be able to schedule them all together. It's a big part of volunteering and something that we're continuing to invest a lot more in. Last one here around creating engaging experiences through personalisation. A great client of ours, University of Sydney. So we spoke about gamification a little bit, rewarding volunteers. There's lots of these examples in Rosterfy, but I think this is a great one for University of Sydney. Students were struggling for money to buy their university hoodie, whatever it might be. I get it. This is where now they're incentivising volunteers with their own personalised rewards that make sense for their community. This may not make sense for a non-profit or a church group. Their rewards might be slightly different. They might be fundraising things that they might get back, or someone else or a corporate could lean in and provide, maybe it's football tickets or something to their community for their volunteering work. So these are all just sort of ideas, I guess, hopefully to get you started to say people are doing these things now and they're working really well. Here's just a quick snippet of our mobile app that we just launched end of last year for volunteering. We believe it's the world's best volunteering specific mobile app, and we'd love to show you through how it works. Here's an example of those rewards being claimable for volunteers for the actions that they do. There's a lot of data around some questions earlier about how do you keep people, and especially the young ones that start with you, how do you incentivize them to actually stay with you, not just do one and go. There's a lot of data around getting them to their third or fourth shift. And this is where in Rosterfy you build in incentives for getting to that third shift that volunteers can claim. Golf Australia, instead of claimable things, they might be doing virtual badges that also become physical badges that people can pin on themselves at the events, okay? And so, look, these are just some ideas. We've already spoken about Gen Z, so I might skip over this, but I think AI, naturally, we as a business are investing quite heavily into this space for our customers, but just a couple of touch points here around recruitment and matching. So how do you personalise the experience as much as possible from the very outset? So we don't want a volunteer to have to go through. For British Heart Foundation, it previously was about 2 to 3 months from the start you expressed interest to the time you became a volunteer. That's crazy. Think about it like fundraising. It's emotional. You realize you want to help. It needs to be instantaneous. And it needs, not only that, but it needs to connect to why you came in the first place. I might really care about Red Frogs, but then Andy said, you put me in the IT department, that's not me. I'm not coming back. Like, it needs to be connected to the cause and the reason, and this is why you need a centralized platform that links into your shifts and opportunities that are open. Don't just open registration and hope people filter through and then put them in the role they don't want to do. They just won't turn up and you'll be going, why? And almost we tend to sometimes blame volunteers and say they're unreliable. How do we personalize it as much as possible? And I guess we've learnt this from our university days such a long time ago about personalizing an experience, putting it on a silver platter for them, highlighting here are the rewards that you can claim as part of this journey as well. And I guess maybe this is the last thing I'll touch on is for forever, I've always believed, why don't we work better together with our volunteers? And we started our business in around 2016. From 2016 till before COVID started, everyone was saying, no, they're mine. COVID happened, and then everyone said to us, hey, Rosterfy, why haven't you built the ability for interconnected accounts? We're like, guys, we're trying to tell you this the whole time. And now we've spent the last couple of years really developing this mobile app. We've been very conscious in the way we're releasing it slowly, just with a few specific customers. But as our journey goes, this is something that we're going to lean into more. Just to make it really clear, to say you have the ability for a volunteer to have a central volunteer passport, if you will, and that being able to connect to other organisations in their area. So if I have 2 little kids, my daughter's just maybe getting into netball soon, maybe I help with her netball on a Saturday. But I also care about environment. So how do I see that there's a shift with Landcare, who we're chatting to a lot at the moment, a shift with Landcare on a Sunday morning that's within 30 kilometres of my house. Great, I can do that, and because I have all my checks and balances, I don't need to go through the pain of needing to do that again. And so we are going to just keep pushing forward with this, and we'd love to get some support and people to ask questions, challenges as we go. And yeah, look, we've got a little space out the side here. We're here. We have Leanne, Marion is part of our team, Tatiana. We have 4 of us here today. So we'd love you to come by and say hello, and we really appreciate your time, and well done for everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannan. Okay, 30 minutes for lunch. Shannan and the Rosterfy team are going to be on the Queensland Terrace, as he mentioned, so ask your questions of them, and we'll come back at 5:02. Thank you, everyone.